Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to tonight's ccac meeting. Jen will be here in a little bit. She has recently taken on the job as a tennis coach, and so her job was ending at 5:30, and she was going to rush home so that she could get here for this meeting as soon as she could. But I'd like to welcome everybody, and I would like to read our mission statement. I know it's sitting right there, but I'm going to read it. The Frederick County ccac works in collaboration with students, families, FCPS staff, and the community to advise the Office of Special Education and the Board of Education. The committee will focus on open and honest communication, improving effectiveness and accountability, advocating for appropriate resources, and identifying individual issues that may often be systemic. The committee will work together to put children first. The next thing that we would have is public comment, except we do not have any public comment this evening. So we will go past that and move on to director's comments. Linda and Troy.
Good evening, everyone. I'll start off and share that we wanted to continue to highlight the Maryland State Department of Education Parent Involvement Survey. That closes on May 21st, and everyone's voice should be heard. So please share with families the link there so that they can engage in the survey. We have extended school year updates. Over 750 students are projected for ESY service. So we will be hosting that this summer at 16 locations. It'll run from July 6th through July 29th, except for the first week, which happens to have 4th of July on a Sunday. So Monday is off, and it'll run through Friday, the July 9th. Coming up this next month in May, parents will receive individualized letters from their student's case manager, which is going to confirm the location, the times, the days, and transportation if it is applicable. And lastly, an update with regards to recovery and compensatory services, that we are holding summer programming for students in specialized programs at the same time concurrently with extended school year. And families are being invited into meetings to discern the recovery decision and the impact of FAPE on our students, to prepare for participation this summer in recovery services. The remainder of students who are not in specialized programs, determinations will be made in the fall and forward through the IEPT meeting process, and they'll have 12 months to implement the decision once it's determined. And there's a technical assistance bulletin available for you there.
Linda, I had one question on that I've had a couple of questions from families. If a family in a specialized program is not available or does not want to extend their student's day, do they have the opportunity to work with their team to maybe do it in the fall or the summer? The recovery services piece, I'm sorry.
Yes, so no, that's a good question. So we're standing up programs for this summer. Teams that have determined the most impacted students will convene meetings. They're reaching out to families to question their availability this summer. Certainly those decisions could be made in the fall as opposed to the summer if the student would be unavailable in the summer.
And Linda, could you drop that link to the technical assistance bulletin in the chat, please? It's not linking on the PDF.
Sure. And finally, Troy and I just wanted to share here today that you will be seeing a Find Out First. We happen to be very excited about the opportunity to have a virtual celebration of our special educators. It will be occurring on May 20th. It will be via a virtual experience that we will be sending out a Find Out First to staff and members of ccac to be able to participate in that celebration. We're going to have a guest speaker. We are going to have video shout outs available to any staff or students. Thanks for adding the link for the recovery that Teresa had asked about into the chat. And finally, we will have some prize giveaways. So more to come, but we'll be forwarding that information to you to join our celebration with us. We are really excited to have you join with us.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next, we will have our Board of Ed representative, Mr. Mason, if you would give us your comments.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to send a congratulations to Twin Ridge Elementary, and as they passed their state review by Special Olympics Maryland and have been ushered to the national level. They're in the process of completing the application, which is due in June. National banners will be announced in August, and Twin Ridge is the only elementary school in the state applying at this level. They have been able to fully convert their club to 100% virtual, and they focus not only on unified sports, but art and music as well, which sets apart from any other program. Their message is of inclusivity and celebrating abilities by focusing on communication. And with that message, I'd like to
Jay, you went on mute.
sorry about that. I don't know how I did that. Where did I mute myself?
And with that message, I'd like to.
Sorry, I don't know what's going on. I keep muting myself. That message of inclusivity and celebrating communication, I'm hopeful that the membership committee extends invitations to our diverse community and make sure that we have more voices on this committee to represent the Black and Brown students in our schools, so that everybody's voice can be heard and represented in ccac. And with that, that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and congratulations to Twin Ridge. Next, we'll have Partners for Success comments.
Okay, thank you. All right, so a couple of different things we have going on. We continue to host support groups on the second Tuesdays at 10 and first Thursdays at 4. Find Out First normally go out 2 weeks prior, and that is open to all families or caregivers to come join with other families and caregivers to just learn from each other, talk about what's working and what's not in their households, and just to meet other families. We do have because we're still virtual at this time, we do have a kind of group norms to make sure that everyone understands that it is private and that whatever we talk about is proprietary. We just had our first spring book club wrapped up on, where was that? Oh, just last week. And the book that we spoke about was Smart But Scattered: The Revolutionary Executive Skills Approach to Helping Kids Reach Their Potential by Peg Dawson. With the members that joined, we really did have a great conversation around what types of things worked for us. There was a lot of really practical suggestions. We did agree that it could probably be updated in some of the examples, but in terms of the worksheets and the strategies that are included in there, we really had a great time doing that. One of the things we did in the book club is we did go through for our children and then also for ourselves to kind of see where our strengths and challenges lie within our own executive functionings and how that might compare to our children. So that was really interesting. Also, and you know what, I don't have it listed on here and I meant to, but on May 3rd, we will be having, I have to follow up with her for final approval, but Peg Dawson is coming to speak to us. So I just need to follow up with her one more time and get that out, but we'll have that sent out through Find Out First as well, for about an hour and a half, just to present on some topics from her book and give us the opportunity to ask some questions. So you should see that coming very shortly. May 24th, in conjunction with ccac, we are hosting Stephanie Knapp. She actually was one of the people that sent us public comment a few months ago. And she'll be doing a short presentation on self-regulation and the IEP. And then we'll possibly have her back in the fall to do a longer workshop. But this will be on May 24th, just prior to the ccac meeting, with a separate call-in number, for about half an hour at 5:30. And then the other thing that we are doing in conjunction with ccac is understanding assessments. We are still finalizing these dates and presenters, but we are going to look at understanding school-based educational, speech language, and psychological assessments to help families and even other teachers understand kind of how to read them and how they relate in real life and what we're looking for. So that will be interesting. And then also in May, we are going to walk through, we're going to do like a lunch, learn, and discuss. I know there are a lot of questions around recovery services. So in conjunction with the secondary and elementary special education, either supervisor or coordinator, I'll be hosting a presentation there, most likely like a 3 p.m. on a Thursday or Friday, but we're finalizing dates where we can all collaborate. So we will be walking through that. We'll go through what it is, the decision-making processes, the requirements, and then give some opportunity for folks to ask questions. And then, of course, as always, things that are on the plate for the future and suggestions are always welcome. So that's all I have.
Hi, Kara. Hi, everybody. Sorry I'm late. I had to finish up some tennis practice. Just a quick question. Is that a Partners for Success, or is that the events, or is that are you giving a combination? Just because I see it listed also later. Is that like a combo between the two?
Some of it was already in the works, so it's stuff that we were doing in conjunction with. So it's probably listed in both places. And then it's one other thing that we're going to do just for ccac event-wise too, or actually two more things. We'll get to that in a little bit. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have the all of the ccac subcommittees ready to talk and make their presentations on what's happening and what they've done. I do want to ask one question, Kara. I was going through some of their worksheets that they have, you know, their work intent for the year, and I think they need a date on them as to when they were updated.
Okay,
because
yeah, I would recommend that. And so I think I can find it just based on when it was last touched. But my recommendation would be when you go into those folders, when it's updated, do like a version, like a V on the end, rename it with the date that it was updated.
Okay.
And if anyone needs any help, I can help with that.
Okay. Thank you. So first we have the membership committee.
Good evening. I don't have any updates, nothing new, not bringing anybody in. Nobody has resigned. So nothing to share this evening.
Could you tell me, Shawnee, we were talking last month about sending out notices that we were taking applications, people who wanted to join ccac. Have we done that yet? Because last year it says in the bylaws that the deadline is May 15th.
Correct. And so we had talked about channel 18 sending out and it going out through Find Out First.
Okay. Okay. And is that in the works?
I don't have control over Find Out First or channel 18. And I'm sure I never, ever will.
Linda and Troy, I can follow up with you. I think I have the original notice, and I don't know how to get to channel 18, but I'll work with you both offline to see if we can get those posted with the same message. We may want to, can we decide on this meeting if we want to extend that May 15th date?
I think that we should extend it. Yeah, again, with circumstances. We used to hang flyers around the community and We're just, everything is sort of different right now. If the full committee agrees, I think that we should extend it so that we can hopefully get a lot of interest.
I would agree with that.
Kara, I would ask that the membership team provide the wording that they would like to have and the extension that they would like to have. And then we probably want to reconsider maybe maintaining the membership application process open ongoing each year, and really focusing in our board liaison shared today earlier in his comments the wish to diversify our team, this group. And I think there are some ways that we can do advertising and social media and keeping the application open and prioritizing consideration of a wider fish net, if you will, into the pool of diverse possible applicants for a longer time frame. So those are some things that we can do moving forward, but I'll ask that membership committee to send their wording and expectation, and then we'll work, Troy and I, with Kara to see if we can broaden the net a little bit moving forward to extend that timeline so that we can also be proposing to receive a more diverse group in the mission of the membership request.
So absolutely.
I'm sorry. I was just going to ask, is there a goal population of parents or community members that we want to diversify to, so that we make sure we can target certain schools or certain parent groups or something like that? Is there a specific area of disability? Is there more information on that?
I think we have a diverse stakeholder group that we request, as we always do for ccac. Our board liaison just reminded us that we need to be looking for representation that matches the Black and Brown students that we serve. So we may just be tweaking our membership requests to highlight that we are seeking that, so that we can get more persons of color that already fall into staff, administration, and the other groups that are solicited for membership.
Thank you. That's much more clear. Got it.
So how are we going to do that? The application doesn't ask for a minority on it. It does talk about what you could bring to the table as far as disabilities. We look at different feeder patterns. We look at different programming, and again, highlighting again the disability. We don't even have that on the application. Are we suggesting that we put that on the application?
You can simply just say you're asking for diverse community members to join the ccac committee. There's plenty of Black and Brown parents out there, Black and Brown students in our school system that are in special ed, have 504s. So, you don't have to say we're looking for minorities. We just want to diversify our committee and send it out. We can definitely put it on Find Out First. If you have that flyer that you've had, that you've used previously, we can adjust that with dates or wording. If you just want to share that with Linda, we can take that flyer and make the adjustments for it. And I know that our equity department can help out with wording if you need it. So we can make it happen.
Without collecting that on the application, we wouldn't know if somebody's a diversity candidate or not, though.
Well, I think we can. I mean, we can collect just data. They don't have to fill it. I mean, they wouldn't have to fill it out as one of those standard boxes. I think we could look at that. And I can update that. Shauna, remember too that when I first took over secretary, I digitized it. I don't know if that's something we want to do too, but I made it a Google form that we could kind of send out easily that way too, as a link, and that way we could just kind of collect it all at once. Do you guys want me to update that and take a look at it first and then share it with Linda and Troy?
Why don't you and I, why don't you and I talk?
Okay.
And then you can send it up the chain.
Sounds great.
I think Eric had a good question too of do we need to evaluate if there are barriers? Is Mr. Mason, was there something you were specifically thinking of ways to break down barriers or places? Like what was the thought of how we can make different besides just re-advertising it? Was there a different way to advertise?
I don't think there's any special way to advertise. I think it's a wording choice. Diversifying the committee is pretty simple enough. Not trying to target anybody, not trying to collect data, but if you just invite, you got to make the ask. If you don't make the ask, then people won't know you're looking and won't come. So well, I think it's.
But I do think
stating, just stating that you want to diversify the committee.
I do think we need to be asking where people are seeing the ask, though. So if we're I think we need to be putting the ask to where the people are seeing it. I mean, if we're just putting out on Find Out First and it's not getting to the families, we're not going to get the applications. So we can change the language all we want, but if we keep doing the same thing we're doing, we're going to end up with a committee that looks just like it looks right now. So I mean, I think there's.
I think if you can target the city schools, if use individual schools, Find Out First, the school system, Find Out First. If we let our equity department help us out, we can get it done.
Can you use? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Shauna. I was just wondering if you can use language such as minorities encouraged to apply.
No, I wouldn't.
So, I wouldn't.
Okay.
Let's go with a diverse committee is encouraged. Whatever. And then Jay, could you promote it at the next board meeting? I'll get all the language to you. Was that something you could do in your board comments?
Sure can. Sure will.
And then we can brainstorm in other areas. Oh, go ahead, Shauna. Sorry.
You're fine. I just want to make it really, really, really crystal clear that we have advertised this committee throughout all of the schools, throughout all of the county, and we have tried to target, again, different disabilities, different feeder patterns. We have, and I've been on this committee a long, long time. I want to make that crystal clear. Now, we've sent things to schools. We've asked schools to send things out. Now, I can't speak to that end of it, but I just want to make Mr. Mason comfortable knowing that we advertised in every feeder pattern in every school in our system over the years. We made sure of that.
I don't doubt that for 1 second.
I just wanted to add that sometimes our timeline has been very shortened. And so I think if we can leave membership, we can start the membership open and early for applications and continue it open and extending the timeline. We also have more people. That way we can, when we're speaking with people and they bring up a topic and they may be a person who it would be from one of our schools that is centrally located and they have interests, we can always refer them to the application and that it is open. We can just provide them the link and we could leave it open for a longer period of time. I think sometimes, to Shauna's point, she has been on this committee for a very long time and in part of membership, and she's a very strong member of our committee. And so we're not doubting that the committee has done everything they could, but sometimes our window of application is very, very small and short. So opening that up wider may have us get more applicants eventually.
And we are going to, at some point, be addressing the bylaws. So if we could change the bylaws and extend the period that we're trying to recruit. I think I'm agreeing with Linda. I think that would help.
I was just going to say that, Shauna, since we're reviewing the bylaws, now would be the time to make that deadline change now. And that way, when we have the 30 days to vote next meeting, it would already be set in place. Does that sound? We could do it then. And if not, we could make a temporary motion to extend it for a month until the membership committee has the wording that they would like.
Anything else? Okay, the next committee is the communication committee. Any updates?
I apologize. I'm having problems over here with my internet connection, and I had the mute button on. There are no updates. The bulk of the work that we were doing this year was supporting the virtual fair. I will send out an invite this week or a survey this week for a meeting next week with the members of the communications committee, just to wrap any year-end activities up. But in terms of meaningful updates, I do not have one.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Next would be Best Buddies.
Sorry. Okay, I do not think that Lori is on, but we did talk the other day, and I think that most of you know that we've decided for this year we've reallocated that budget back to the special education classroom grants, and we will reevaluate that as we go into next year's budget planning and involvement. So I will reach out to Urbana just to get another feel, maybe a readout from them on how it's been going with that program. And then I'm also actually going to reach out to Twin Ridge just to kind of get a feel for what they're doing with Special Olympics and if there's anything there, which also may grow. So I think that those are two completely separate programs, but both more state and national type programs that we may or may not want to include next year. So just something for us to put on the back order. And that's it for Best Buddies.
Very good, thank you. The next we have the resource fair, and I know that we had talked about having some kind of just update readout at this meeting. So, Desiree.
Right. Yeah, so the Resource Fair Committee did meet last week. There was only 2 in attendance. We did discuss making an update, but I wasn't sure if that was the plan of work form or if there was a separate committee plan. And I kind of sent an inquiry about that out and heard back tonight that the form can be updated, but we didn't have a chance to complete it because I wasn't certain if there was a second form separate from the plan of work form. We talked about which committee members were active. There was one member that wasn't active at all. There was another one that let us know that she wasn't going to be active and kind of dropped off. I sent a message about, reviewing the YouTube channel views, but didn't get a response. So that's something that we could do if we meet again. And I also sent out a message because we had talked about, sending a follow-up meeting or a follow-up message to the vendors to kind of thank them for their participation. And I wanted to know if there was already a message that had been used in the past or if I needed to create one. I didn't get a response for that either. So there's still a few things that need to be done as far as following up after the resource fair. But we did have a meeting, and that's where it stands at this point.
Okay, Desiree, if in my inbox, I will look for them and bring it to the top and try to answer anything if any of those are sent to me. So I'll take a look after this meeting.
Okay, great.
Okay, next we have the retreat and events committee.
Okay. So some of what we're doing event wise, I covered with Partners for Success. We are doing this for let me a couple other things that we did want to do. So obviously we're doing the understanding assessments and the Stephanie Knapp quick presentation. One other thing that we would like to do, hopefully on the May 24th meeting, if there is room on the agenda. So if you guys can take a look at that. We've had a few people reach out in terms of different nonprofits in the area. And so what we would like to do is reach out to these 5, 6, I think, nonprofits of a variety. So I'm going to actually share this if it did it come through on the agenda? Just make sure. So we were hoping that this encompassed kind of a variety of different disabilities or organizations throughout the either Frederick or Maryland area. So the 6 that we plan to reach out to determine if there is someone that they have that they can either send a blurb for us to present, or if they can create kind of a short, 2 or 3 minute video for us if they are not able to attend, would be we'd like to get the ARC more involved. I know that we do have membership on the team, so I'm just going to kind of back. Is that Corby? I think I haven't reached out to you, but I'm going to get back with you on that. Sorry about that. The Friends organization, which is their mission is listed. The Individual Education Professionals is a nonprofit. I think they spoke during one of our public comments in what they are doing for the area in terms of dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia. Mental Health Association of Frederick. We have had good partnerships with them in the past, and I think this is a good year to make sure that folks know that they exist and what they can do for our communities. Parents Place of Maryland has always been a great resource within the state for unbiased information and just supports in terms of IEP processes and also other resources throughout the state. And then Pathfinders for Autism has been a great partnership over the past years, and also has lots of events and opportunities for families. So this was kind of the list we came up with as a kind of cohesive first time spotlight, and then maybe we can do it on a more regular basis going forward for us to kind of promote different nonprofits, organizations within the Frederick and Maryland area that those that have a interest in special education will have access to. So, thoughts on any of those? And I can keep everyone posted to make sure we either have a video or a blurb or participation. But if we could maybe schedule out like a 20-minute for the next agenda to allow for this kind of presentation, that would be fantastic.
I think it looks like a nice mix, Kara, of good information.
Okay, great. And then the last thing is the spring retreat. So a couple different things. Just a reminder that the retreat is going to be on Monday, May 17th from 5 to 8 p.m. at Utica Park, which is up 15 north towards Thurmont, but not all the way to Thurmont. I'll get the address if you need it. We'll be in Park Shelter number 6. We are going to hope for good weather, but we figured that having this outside would allow us to get together in person, meet as a new team. Finally, we've been together all year, but most of us have not actually met. I think we had something like 13 new members this year. And then we'll also get an agenda out to everyone on what we plan on doing. They were very high level. When we met this week, we felt like it was going to be important to do like a get to know you activity so that we as a ccac committee can get to know each other on a not just a Google Meet kind of situation, but also learn a little more about each other. So we'll have that planned for the beginning. Then we were going to also spend some time really going through what ccac is, the purpose, just a minute, and the mission, talking about what the different committees do, going through 1 second, please. Okay, sorry. Okay. All right, thank you. I'm talking. And just kind of recapping what we do as a committee so that we can all get on the same page. I think that this was it was a tougher year. We were not in person. It was hard to raise our hands and do things. So we kind of want to do like a replay of what we do and make sure that everyone on the committee is involved and understands kind of what everyone's roles are and our purpose. And then looking at a couple different breakout sessions, both on reviewing our recommendations a little bit, and then also what we want to do for next year. Really thinking if we can kind of pretend like we had no budget, what would we want to do in the ccac world? So that's kind of where we're going. And then the one other question, stop please. The one other question that we were going to have was food. We're there from 5 to 8. So we had a couple of suggestions for the committee. In the past, we've done some potluck things, but it is COVID. So we thought maybe that would be a little iffy, right? We thought that maybe we could just DoorDash and PayPal, or we can get a list of folks who are coming ahead of time and we can collect $10 a person and figure it out. But I can send out an email. We don't have to make that decision right this minute, but just think about if you have any other ideas. And we'll make sure that we're fed sometime in the middle of that too, while we're sitting under the pavilion. So we'll have whiteboards and materials and all kinds of cool stuff, but that's what we're planning. So it's a good end of year wrap up, finally get to meet each other in person. So hopefully most of you will be able to come, and then we'll work on some business for next year's committee. That's all I have.
Very good. Thank you. I do like the idea of being fed. That would be good. It always helps. Okay. The last committee report that we have is from our budget committee.
So back after the last meeting, Kara, the budget committee and I got together and we were able to get all of the teacher grants, the Where Wish list filled out. It's because what we're going to do is we're going to use the budget for our ccac and Partners for Success. We're going to team up the budget and we're going to be able to deliver everything that was on the wish list. So we're all good to go.
And then as an update to that, the budget amendment was submitted last week. So we're waiting to hear back from both our coordinator and the state. And once that is approved, then we will order all of those materials and get those sent out to the different schools as quickly as we can. And then I'm also amending my the Partners for Success budget, that hoping that we can cover. There was a little bit of a remainder of what was requested. So Linda and Troy, heads up, that's another piece coming your way from the family support group's budget that there's about, I think, an extra $600 or $700 that we couldn't cover with the ccac budget that we're going to try to transfer over to the family support budget. So again, it will have to get approved. If not, we were going to go through and just reallocate some of that funding just to ensure that all of those that had requested something we're getting at least something, but we're hoping to cover it all.
Okay. We will now move to, since all the committee reports are done, I'm sure everybody has gotten the draft of the meeting notes from our last meeting. We have to decide if we're going to approve on them or not. I know I have one change, and that is back on where it's ccac subcommittee reports, under the communication committee. Their plan was updated in 3/22/21, not 20, so it wasn't a year ago. Okay,
Got it.
That's my only update.
Okay, and I have it pulled up, so give me just a second just to share this instead. Where was this one listed? Committee reports. Yes, might as well do it live.
There it is.
Might knock that out. Oh, here we go. Thank you.
Kara, same thing for membership.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have an exact date, but I did it on the 2021 worksheet.
Yeah.
I just don't have an exact date for you.
I'll double check that one. I can find it. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
That's why I was thinking that it would be a good idea if there was a date on there, that we put like the date that it was updated.
Okay.
Anybody else? So if we have no other changes that people are requesting, we need to vote to see if we approve the minutes, the notes. They are not minutes, they are notes.
So we need a motion to approve the amended minutes.
Thank you.
From the March 2021 meeting. We have a motion to do that.
I make the motion.
And I'll second.
A second. I didn't hear who made the motion, but I saw Colleen second.
It was Colleen.
And I saw Terry made the motion.
Oh, Terry made the motion. Okay. So if you approve the amended minutes with those amendments into the chat box, if you could please put yes. If you do not, put no.
Okay, we have a majority.
Very good. So the notes are approved. Okay, if I go down to the next section, which is action item pending, if I look at the first two items, it's the resource fair summary report, and then talking about the ccac events and workshops. And we've covered them already. They are totally done. So I think we can now move on to the biggest item that we have for the evening, and that is looking at our bylaws, which have been redlined and sent out to everybody. So I'm going to let Jen take over. She's going to head this part. Thank you, ma'am.
Sure. So as Patty said, everybody has had a chance to look at the, well, they've had the bylaws, A, and then B, you should have had 2 weeks or plus to look at the red line. We took all the suggestions people sent in that we requested and made those changes. So what we were hoping to do tonight is go through just the red line portions of the bylaws. We're not going through the whole entire bylaws, just the portions that were the parts that have been suggested for amendments. And then if there are any other amendments, we'll take them tonight. But after that, we're going to close it off for any amendments. Then you'll have your 30 days to take a deeper look into it. And then we'll do our vote at the next meeting. Because if we don't put a cutoff time, we would be doing amendments for many months. So with the last month and this month, there should be enough time to put all the changes in. So the first red line is under the mission, which Patty had shared. She went to the ccac meeting. They have put out some new literature. We just amended our mission statement to better align with what ccac has out as a mission statement. So it's just, again, adding some of that wording, taking a little bit out, and just tweaking that to match. Anybody have any other changes or thoughts on those?
I have a question. Does that mean you're no longer reporting to the board since you've crossed out advise the Board of Education?
So the Board of Education always presents at their meeting for us, and then they bring to us the information from the Board of Ed meeting. I think we were just putting on there, taking off, and being more holistic. I believe it was just more of a what's the mission statement in general.
But so you will be presenting to the board each year like we've been doing.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you meant. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's advising the Office of Special Education. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? You want to scroll down, Kara, a little more?
And real quick, sorry about some of it was just fixing. There was different kinds of like fonts and other things. So a lot of this stuff on the side is just technical changes. So unless there's actual word changes, it's just there. Just a heads up on that. Let's see. While we were talking about membership, though, is there an area in here that we want to talk about? Let me see.
We have to go to the.
Where it was.
I think you went past it.
It's Article 3, Section 3.
This area right here. Yeah, Article 3, Section 3. Right now, it reads individuals interested in membership will complete an online application after reviewing the bylaws and email the completed application to our whatever this may be. We'll work on that. Should be fine. But it says by May 15th of the application year. Also includes members who wish to reapply. Deadline for accepting applicants may be extended for blah blah blah. And ensuring there are enough applicants provide enough members for a full committee. So do we want to put something like by May 15th or a rolling, I don't know, by
I don't mind a rolling, or at least maybe a longer period or extending it. My concern with rolling,
yeah.
I don't know, Shauna can jump in on this. It's what that does to the membership committee and how they continue to review
Right.
or take in applications. Thoughts on that as rolling, Shauna?
So, well, I don't know how I feel about the rolling because I don't know how to sort of keep it clean, but I think we should bump up. I don't want to extend it later because we start at the beginning of the school year. So we want to make sure that the new members are selected and start fresh with the new school year. So I think we go earlier versus extending later, in my opinion. And what happens is when somebody resigns, we go back to the applications that were submitted and fill in with somebody from that role. So if it was an FCPS employee, we fill them with another FCPS employee. Same thing with parent and same thing with community member. So I don't know how the rolling necessarily would work.
I don't know
I
how it would work
mean,
either with terms, right? Because we have terms
right?
that start a certain date and end a certain date. So I agree. We may have to maybe widen the application period, but not make it rolling. So if it's longer and we advertise it for longer periods of time, maybe.
So let's skip down to section 8 then of the same area. That's where we talk about the publicly advertised membership each year from April to May.
Right.
If it was rolling, I mean, if it's rolling even with terms, it would just be similar to how other offices hold terms, right? You finish the term, and then you would get, you would just end it. And if somebody resigns and they come in to fill the resignation, they would just finish that term. Right. It wouldn't really count for their own term, and then they could start serving their own terms after that. I don't think it would have to be terribly complicated.
And that, I believe that's how we've tracked it in the past. I was going back through the secretary notes from previous years that if a member did have to resign, say in March, the person that would replace them would come in as March and finish whenever that person would have been completed. Right.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking like if they apply in September, if it's rolling, but they're not selected till the following September. And that doesn't mean we can't do that. Just thinking of the being able to maintain interest, I guess.
And that's what I was going to, I'm sorry, I thought you were done, Jen. That's the other thing too, is that if people apply when they're interested, and then if they're not selected, they usually don't reapply. And if they're invited to fill a vacancy, they don't always take that either. So people lose momentum and interest at some point too.
So what about just officially changing this membership to like March or February? And actually, if we did it to March, it would typically align with the resource fair. So we could be open and accepting applications even at the resource fair.
I like that idea.
Yeah. I mean, you can even go as far as February if we really wanted to make it.
Kara,
again,
can you say that
if the goal is the broad net, maybe we should even do February. Like if we're February, March, April, May. I mean, if we have 4 months of applications, applicants to advertise and re-advertise, we may, be able to saturate, and get a more diverse group to come in.
So can I I want to just double check for clarification, being a newbie. So even if you extend that, when do they don't start until September, correct?
Right.
So
accept applications anytime between February through May 15th for them to begin in the following school year.
Right. So is there any way, I mean, the membership, Shauna, you would know this. Hi, Shauna. Could you, instead of doing it February, can you push it back farther so that it ends like in June as opposed to ending in May? Because I'll be honest, like I remember I applied, and then when I got accepted, I totally forgot that I applied because it'd been so many months, and I'm like, oh, I guess I didn't hear back. You know what I'm saying? So if you ended in June, when the school year ended, it's more logical then that you would start in September as the school would start. But I don't know if that jives with the timing of what the membership committee needs.
So we were following the ccac schedule, and ccac doesn't meet over the summer. So trying to get the subcommittee together, because we literally, before COVID, we actually got together in person with all of the applications and vetted everybody out. But we followed the ccac calendar, because once school's out, everybody sort of, and they should, takes off.
So then, Shauna, when do you make your final, when do you actually, if it ends in May, when do you make your decision of who you want to accept?
We used, again, before COVID, we would do things pretty quickly. Before everybody took, I'm telling you, once the school year ends, everybody sort of scatters.
Okay. So
I think, Colleen, also when you came in was a COVID year. So that we had extended, we had made a temporary amendment to extend that time to take in new applications. So I bet that's probably why it felt like months.
Probably. It just could have been me. But then what about, I know that technically you don't meet over the summer, but then could somebody like Shauna, could you guys maybe send out just a reminder like over the summer to the people that you're accepting so that they remember that they're being accepted? Or, since you're not going to meet, like go ahead and end it in May, like you normally would, keep it according to the ccac calendar. But then could you send a reminder over the summer that they've agreed to be part of this?
So the letters typically, again, COVID really messed things up. But typically, as soon as the members are selected, in this case, Kara sends out the acceptance and the, I hate to say rejection letters, but there's only so many spots. But yeah, the letters go out pretty quickly.
Right. And so under that, typically it would be probably right in June before we take off. And so it's the other language that we recommended changing in here was to notify them. In addition to just notifying them, we would send out the letter of acceptance, bylaws, mission statement, group norms. And then what I would do is I would resend that out again before the September meeting, just as a refresher. That would be the goal from a secretary role.
Okay.
And then notifying the unselected candidates with the letter of regret. So that was we just changed the wording a little bit there. And I believe.
Okay, then.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think that's kind of where we covered. But yes, in a typical year, you would have gotten notice at the end of last school year. But because we just kind of got backed up and things got canceled, we extended that deadline because we didn't have a full group of candidates, if I'm correct. And so we extended the deadline so that we could have more candidates, which was great because we got 13 newbies last year, which is fantastic. But like you said, some events.
And then this year they'll just get a notification again in August of a reminder that they'll have a meeting starting in September, which should jog their memory.
Yep. That's marking my calendar now.
Okay. I said my piece. Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other question? So is everyone okay with maybe saying February to May, just going to wrap our heads around maybe at the very least starting to post on Facebook and starting to post, maybe not the official find out first letter in February, but we could start doing some social media advertising and different things starting in February, accepting them through May 15th.
As long as the wording is clear, sort of backing up what Colleen was saying, that, if somebody who might have OCD see this come out, they're super excited in February and they're not going to get an acceptance letter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we need to advertise that we're taking the information early. We're happy to take it early, but don't expect notification until June.
Okay. Yeah, I can reword it about, notification in June for the 2021-22 school year, blah, 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 something like that. Okay. Or June. So just me a second. I want to just take notes because that'll go somewhere different. Okay. All right. This was a section about midterm vacancies when they occur at the discretion of the members, filling them at the discretion of the membership committee. So we're not required to stay at 30 people, but we try to have that variety, right? And go ahead, Jen.
I was just going to say, before we keep going down, we jumped down because that's where the date was. We need to go back up and make sure we're hitting all the other red line. If I could ask a favor, is there a way to make it bigger? Because I cannot.
Hold on for a second. On my screen, it's
I'm like
trying to hold on for a second.
squinting.
No, Jen, I'm right there with you.
Okay, I was like, well,
no. I'm right there with you. And I've even got my glasses on.
yeah. Yes, I think we did. Yeah, I think we're at the top of page 2 right there. And we were just saying, because we switched to co-chairs. You'll see throughout the red lines. I'm not going to talk about them each time, but where it said chair, we put co-chair person. And just to clarify the title. So that's down to the top of page 2.
Sorry, I'm trying to.
That's it. Oh, you're trying. If you can't, that's fine.
Yeah, I know I can.
I can squint.
I was slightly distracted for a second, so hold on. And where do I put this?
Kara, if you just hit Control Plus.
Thank you.
Hit Control Plus and it'll just keep enlarging it.
There we go. That's why I like you guys. It's not doing that though. Hold on. That's going somewhere else. Here we go. I got it. Zoom. Let's see. Here we go.
In the lower right-hand corner, there's a slider that you can adjust.
My word is a little bit outdated on this one, so sorry about that. Here you go. Okay, is that better?
Yep.
Yep.
Beautiful. Thank you. But can you scroll? Yeah, keep going. So right there, we're at 7. Oh, section 7. We updated the members of the committee. Obviously, the directors of special education are here. We no longer have psychological services representative or person. Board of Ed, and then Kara, the family support services, which is the Partners for Success, but just making sure that everybody understands there's family support. It's not just parent coordinator, but the family coordinator. Just updating the terms, the names of the different representatives. And then, let's see. This moves into which we talked about was the membership. So down to where you're in the blue, Kara, did we say we were? Okay. Oh, that's what we did. If we had the member that left and midterm, and then we need to fill that, that we would do the affirmation vote at the next meeting rather than hold it off.
Right. And then this is what you were saying earlier, Eric. They just would fulfill the term of the person they replaced. This is that area.
Okay. So we pushed the subcommittee chair people and members to October because September was a little ambitious. We couldn't get everybody onto a committee or have a chair by September. So we pushed it to October so that we had September meeting to talk about the different committees and get a chairperson.
Do we need to spell out what ccac is going to do if somebody doesn't volunteer to be a chair? Because that seems to be a problem too, is people not stepping up to be chairs.
We can. What's your suggestion? Sure. Do you want to say it's appointed? The only one right now that says is appointed is membership. If it's not.
Right, but I mean, I think if nobody steps up, I think it's up to the board. The board co-chairs to say we're going to assign somebody, and otherwise you're going to run the same problem where you could end up indefinitely not getting anybody to volunteer.
Well, this year a survey was sent out and it specifically asked, would you be willing or not? And then there was like a third option. So since I was new, I clicked the third option and I said, I think it was like willing to discuss or something. And because I was new, so I didn't want to anyway, so since I was willing to discuss it, then I was made the chair. So I was, but that was probably because nobody else anyway, so that seemed to,
yeah. And Desiree, in an ideal world, I wouldn't be on 4 committees. But I joined
right.
4 committees because there were new people on a lot of those committees, and I needed to
Oh,
make
okay.
sure at least there was some guidance, even if I haven't been as involved as you might like me to be.
Okay.
Part of why. I
But
mean,
the survey was useful, I thought, to kind of, you know, help you all to.
at least we didn't have to come back and force anybody. You kind of
Right.
sort of volunteered.
So, which was fine. It was fine. But maybe that's a good tool to reuse.
I was trying to scroll through my copy to see where it says what the wording says, Kara, under membership, how it says it will be appointed. I can't remember where that is. The chair. Oh, it's under section 8. It just says the co-chair and co-chairperson shall appoint a membership subcommittee chair each September. Could say the chair and the co-chairperson shall appoint subcommittee chairs to all committees in which
Article 5. No, it's not. Hold that thought. We'll get it when we get down to that piece of it, so I don't get confused. Okay. So let's table that for 1 second. Okay. So what we did here, though, is we did add a section 4, including but not limiting to, because I think that in the past, membership was a required committee, right? Was an official committee. I mean, and these others were not. And as I was taking over for Diane, because she'd been here forever, she sort of handled a lot of, communication and membership were committees before, but the others were sort of just handled. And as we were coming into this and losing a lot of experience last year, we felt that it was important to keep us on track with an official budget committee, a resource fair committee, so it didn't fall just to one person, and then of course communication and membership again, but not limited to. If we decide that we want to go after something like a Best Buddies or something else, we can always add it, but these would be the ones we always want to have.
Yeah, we wanted to make it, those are pretty big positions, so they certainly weren't having a committee to help make those decisions and put things together.
And I think what's important here too is it'll come down a little bit later, but the executive board is the co-chairs, the secretary treasurer, and the chair of each committee. So it does give you a little bit of a forum if we do have to meet outside of a general meeting, that it's still a good participation and representation of the full committee without making all 30 of us get on a call for some items that might be, off topic. So if necessary.
Okay, then you want to scoot to Article 5, officers. We added minimum in there. People wanted to do a longer, the officers wanted to do a longer term than 2 years. We added that the chair and the co-chair should have alternating years in which they are replaced, and the same thing with a secretary with at least one chairperson. That way not the whole board, but the majority of the executive board is not brand new, in order to guide each other.
And I think the secretary, well, for any of them, it was sort of, if someone did have to resign for reasons, just to ensure that, I mean, ideally the chairs would alternate, but at least there'd be a third person kind of as backup if something happened and someone needed to resign. It's just the
if it says minimum, what stops a chairperson from chairing the committee?
We do still vote, right, every year? Should we
I was going to say votes.
Yeah.
The entire committee votes.
So
yeah, every time the term is over, if they want to continue, there's a vote. It's still a 2-year term, but they could do longer if they want to. If they want to reapply and say, I'd like to continue to be chairperson, there's always a vote. If we want to make that more, if we want to make that Was it
Jen,
more
I think
specific?
we would need to maybe remove minimum there then, because officers serve a 2-year term. It may be just a wording that suggests that officers can rerun and be considered for vote. But I think you have to remove minimum because it indicates that a chairperson could chair forever and never be changed. So certainly it's implicit or implied that they could reapply and be voted for, but I think it should just stay as a 2-year term.
Sounds good.
Just trying to see if there's language about voting written somewhere else. Elections. Let's see. Okay, I think it's covered down there. We'll double check it in a second. Okay.
So just removing minimum, or did we want to
I say
say they could reapply?
Yeah, let's cover it under the, well, hold on.
I think it needs to state somewhere that they can reapply.
Yeah, because to me, when we read it that way, I was like, you can only do 2 years. So somewhere in between, if we say we take out the minimum, but we put any officer can reapply and be.
Article 6 is all about elections, so it can be put there.
Or we can just say at the end of this sentence, officers may reapply after their term. Love that. May rerun, reapply. What's the word?
I think you remove it from there, Kara, and I think Patty had a good suggestion down in Article 6 under elections.
Okay.
You could indicate that.
If we're letting people rerun, are we going to put in term limits since we want to encourage diversity and stuff? If we have people that stay on the board for eternity, you're not opening up very many seats.
We haven't had that issue ever.
I'm open. This is whatever people want to add in or take out.
I've never been on a board that didn't have term limits, Jen. I mean, all the nonprofit boards I've served on have term limits.
I don't know if it's necessary. I wonder, based on our earlier conversation, if we could add some language under the membership committee about the membership committee will seek a culturally diverse members, or be seeking or recruiting culturally diverse members, and then maintaining term limits, period. I think that's a really good idea because we really do close off the opportunity to diversify if we continue to extend term limits. The limit is 2 years. Is 2 years too long enough? So that's question one. But I think that it would be important.
I personally wouldn't limit it at 1 term. I would at least let it go 2 terms for sure.
The boards I'm on are typically 2 to 3 years for terms.
When we did 2 years, because I've had this discussion before with prior, you come in 1 year and you're still getting your feet underneath of you. And so it's a minimum 2 years, because by the time you figure things out and what's happening, you need that next year you can be a little bit more effective as a co-chair. If you do 1 year, you're constantly, I think, on a treadmill trying to keep up. Me personally, I would not lower it. I would not go to 2 years. I would not go, down to 1 year. And if we want to put limits, then we can say 2 terms, which would be 4 years.
I was going to ask Eric, how many terms have, in your experience with other committees, how many terms?
So usually what I'll see on boards, and generally speaking, is going to be 2 terms as a board member, and then you can serve an additional 2 terms as an officer. So you can do a total of 4 terms, and that's either between 8 to 12 years. But usually there's higher turnover than I've seen on the ccac, just because it's, the boards that I'm on, it's a lot of work.
Okay.
So what if you were to do 2 terms, 2 years?
That's what I said for officers. I would not put any term limits on the committee itself because I think we have a hard time
Me neither.
filling it. And I think that we get people on there that are effective. And I think if anything, if we feel like it's stagnant, then the committee should then vote on the size and adjusting the size of the committee. That's my opinion, but
That sounds good to me.
So I'm thinking that some wording around diversity would go right here, section 1, where we strive for a diverse, because we're striving for diversity with students with different disabilities, parents of children, and that piece of it, but just in general, a more diverse committee, something. I don't know where we're saying this.
it would fit in there for sure.
Using the words culturally diverse may help with that members will be FCPS staff members serving, and that the membership committee is seeking culturally diverse members as well. Something like that.
And it could say something about to reflect the students within our population.
And I guess another way to encourage diversity is the fact that this advisory could choose to ensure that they have representation throughout the district. Right now, it just says 31 voting members. Does that mean they're a part of, the same feeder, or what does that represent actually? There could potentially be more specificity there.
Yeah. So to answer your question, that is what they try to do, but here's where we can maybe make it more clear. So maximum membership like 35 members.
I can tell you that when we look at applications are not submitted of pictures of the people applying, but we look at disabilities and we look at who's currently on the committee and new members who might be bringing different expertise for different disabilities. We look at the feeder patterns, we look at the programming, we look at the specialized programs, the pre-K, the non-public placement. We look at all of that. The only thing we don't look at someone's color. We don't look at sexuality. We don't look at any of that. That hasn't been the focus. We don't know because we don't ask these people to, but I don't understand. I mean, we want to represent our community, absolutely, but we want to represent the disabilities. That, in my opinion, needs to be the focus of this committee. This is what we are, is special ed. So whomever can bring different information about different disabilities, the hearing impaired, vision, I mean, those are harder disabilities to get representation of. We seek it, but we can't make people apply to this committee. And the focus needs to be the disability community. That's what this committee is about. Whomever wants to apply, if there's a position open, then absolutely we take the people. But the focus has to be disability. It's some of the stuff that we're talking about now are covered in other areas in different committees. The focus, I'm going to say one more time, for this committee needs to be disabilities.
And I think, Shauna, you've done this for a number of years. When you're looking at staff, how many additional staff members do you have that you don't accept? Or how many additional parents do you have that you don't accept?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
it varies every year. But
we get the applications and it's like you can have 20 who want are under the parent, but you only have one opening. And then you may have openings.
That's more than I thought.
Well, I'm just giving you an example that you can have more than what you have open under parents. You could get less than that's open under community members, but the way the bylaws read, you have to fill those particular areas. So we're not all parents and we're not all staff members, so that we have that kind of spread out across.
Yeah, and they have.
So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Shauna, but I was just going to piggyback right on you were saying. Like sometimes we're not getting the applications. I don't know how we can say you have to have all of these feeder patterns, or you have to have all these community groups when we can't. I don't know how we have to. I don't know how we can make, I guess.
So, and I'm just thinking out loud. So when you're promoting and trying to recruit, maybe there's a way of, and I'm not going to try to attempt it right now after a Monday day at school, to try to format it or to try to phrase it that we are looking to expand the diversity of our ccac to include as many of those who can provide their expertise / knowledge in the various areas of all disabilities, so that might try to include those that are deaf, those that are blind, those who are physically impaired, to try to word it so that we're not looking for the diversity as far as cultural diversity, but we're looking for the diversity of the disabilities that we service in this entire county.
And that is part of the application. That's one of the questions, like what area is your expertise and what can you bring to the committee?
Right.
And it sounds also like Kara's going to work on. That's what I think Kara was going to work on. I don't know. Colleen, I don't know if you were in earlier. We did talk about that. I'm not sure if you were in the meeting at that yet. Yeah. So Kara is going to work with the Office of Special Education to work on the wording for the application.
Okay.
Pretty much like what you've just said, to make sure that we're diversifying and we really are seeking. Sorry, we'll keep talking. Eric, go ahead.
I think, if to Troy's point, if we put in something about the feeders, it's going to force us to get more creative about how we go out and seek our applicants. If we just keep doing what we're doing, I stand by what I said before. We're going to keep getting the people we've been getting. If we want a different population to serve, we have to go about recruiting them a different way. And that means not just putting it out on social media. I think it also means ccac members need to go out in their communities and outside of their communities and share what we're doing and encourage people to join and lower the barrier. I think, it sounds like we're saying, well, we're just going to let them come to us. Well, that's a barrier. So how can we lower that barrier to make it easier and more attractive for them to come to us? I mean, if we're just saying come apply, but we're not giving them any incentives or any reason or any background of what we do, why should they apply? What's in it for them? That's my little soapbox.
The other thing that I just wanted to share with you all really quick is that if we took population statistics of our disability group and we divided that out by the 31 members, we're going to have a larger range of members that would have an area of understanding with SLD or things like that, because throughout FCPS, we don't have a population our disability population is, the majority of our students do have learning disabilities. And then you look at OHI and autism and multiple disabilities. So that's another consideration when if you're divvying it up that way as well.
So historically, we've had a higher population of certainly family members that had autism expertise, and we were conscious of that. So if we already had autism covered, then we looked for the other disabilities. But I'm going to go back to, I agree with Eric just a smidge, but just a smidge. We used to go out to the communities, the individual schools would send out flyers. So we did invite, I'm going to say it again, we did go out and invite. We, on the sidelines of Challenger Little League and Special Olympics, we talked about ccac, therapeutic riding. We talk about ccac and what we do. But recently the COVID thing has changed everything. I think we do continue with the find out first and social media and those kinds of things. But I'm a little offended at this point. I absolutely do not think there's been anything wrong with the committees we've had in the past. I am grateful for the staff members and the community members and the family members who have taken the time and put forth effort to do a lot of good things that we've done in this committee over the years. So I'm not going to apologize for the past boards that we've had on ccac. I think they've been pretty dang good.
Just one other small detail. I found out about the application because I'm a politically active person. And so I received information about the openings through the political club that I'm involved in. I didn't see it, or I might have seen it through FCPS, but since it was circulated outside of sort of the school district's network, that's what piqued my interest, because I wanted to be involved in, education and civic, citizen participation. So I wonder if a little bit more of advertising can be put out there in groups like that, or maybe it already is, but I'm just knowing.
A lot of it does become word of mouth. Once the official notice goes out, Desiree, typically what we ask of the committees, the whole committee, is to say, take this and go share it in every other group that you're in that you think it might be involved in. So a lot of it is on all of us to then take that back out to all of the different communities that we come to represent. Like personally, I go into all my Facebook groups that may have either parents of children with autism, or I go into a lot of the actually autistic groups that I'm involved with, and when appropriate, share there. Someone else might go into the Down syndrome community, and then even within the teachers and circulating. So I do think that is part of it. I don't necessarily think that part needs to be specifically. No, I said no. No, not tonight.
Hey, I'm sorry, Kara, on a side note, Kara, can you talk a little closer to your mic? Because it's getting harder to hear you. You're further away. Sorry. No, now you're muted.
So if I could,
I'm sorry. Yeah, so it was just, I will make more conscious to face the mic. I'm looking at one screen and talking the wrong way. So sorry about that. This was a section that if we were going to put anything anywhere, this is probably where it belongs. So look what I highlighted. Use better wording than me. And does anyone have any suggestions? I think we can still strive for balance without being, we can't control always who applies, but maybe we can ensure that we are doing our best to, and I said feeder pattern, but I don't know if that's the right wording. So I'm just typing a placeholder in here. Thoughts?
I was going to try to bring it back into this, and I think that if we want to add in that wording, I'm not opposed to adding in the wording about requiring certain feeder patterns or putting cultural diversity. What I'm afraid of when you put this into bylaws is these are your bylaws. So if those things don't happen, what then happens to ccac? So there has to be more of, in my opinion, if we add it, there has to be a strive for, or there are some other alternatives that we can still fill the committee, even if we don't reach those requirements, if that makes sense. Otherwise, if you can't reach them and then you have nobody and your committee dissolves.
It does make sense. And the one thing that I wanted to add is that it's one thing to have language in your bylaws, and it's another that you have in the advertising media that you expose to people. Where I think we have a little bit of a challenge is that I didn't read the bylaws before I joined, and I don't know if anybody else did either. So we might be splitting hairs over a moot point, if that makes sense.
So everybody's lived experiences are not the same. So when I look at this committee, I don't see any representation for Black and brown students, except for me, and I'm the board liaison. So your efforts should come in and stated in your bylaws that you're going to make efforts to diversify your ccac committee. That doesn't take away from your goals, your missions for supporting the disability community. There are plenty of families out here in FCPS that are Black and brown that have students who have disabilities. And if you make an effort to try to diversify your committee, you will be surprised what happens. You just have to make the effort. People will come, people will join, people will share their voice, and the committee will be better for it.
And I think
would
that's better
heavily
working.
encourage everybody, Jay, but people have not been excluded. Not any race. I don't think we have any Asian folks on here right now. No one has been excluded. I just want to make that very clear.
I'm not saying anybody's been excluded. All I'm saying is from here on, make an effort to try to diversify the committee.
So I have two comments. With all of the recovery meetings that we have coming up, could we put out some kind of postcard that just says, please consider having your voice heard, join the ccac committee, so that we know it's going out to everyone and we're reaching everyone? And Patty, with the flyer that you've made, is there a little blurb about, please join our committee, look for membership forms to come out between this time and this time, so that, because that goes out at every IEP meeting. So that's some way that we can get that information out.
Okay, I think we're all in agreement that this, because we have strive for balance of membership, right? So if we make an effort, if we want to switch it to that wording, or keep strive for balance and then add in strive for balance of membership that represents experience of a variety of disabilities and cultural diversity. If that's the wording, if anybody, feel free to chime in on how the wording would be.
Well, you can make it more specific if you said you limit it to people who membership that would represent as many different disabilities as possible. I don't think you want to do that because there's probably 10,000 different types of disabilities, believe it or not, or at least 7,000. So I'd be careful with this language.
Can you say in cultural backgrounds? Or, well, maybe diversity is better.
I think diversity is better. To answer your question, Renee, find out first, there is a link to translate. So it is translated into Spanish. Just trying to read through everyone's notes too, sorry. So I think two things here. I think we're having a lot of great ideas on how to get the word out. And for that, I will encourage everyone to join the membership committee next year to help with that. But coming back to the bylaws, I think this, and you know, Troy, I'm not Troy, Jay, please weigh in. Like, strive for balance of membership that represents experience with a variety of disabilities and cultural diversity. Does that both cover what we're saying and help bring it front of mind to keep us balanced?
Yes.
Okay, let's see. I was going to say the same thing, Kara. Thank you. We have great ideas with how to get out the word, and let's keep on our bylaws so that we can get through the rest.
Okay.
We have jumped.
We were here. Where were we?
I think we're getting ready to get into that Treasury Secretary piece.
Yes.
So
yeah. Okay.
we have always surprisingly had the secretary and the treasurer be one person, and those are two big positions to have. So it was our suggestion to make them two positions, which means if we make them two positions, we would looking for an opening for the treasurer position, and filling that before, hopefully into June, before the fall. So if we look at the wording, we've just switched, we've taken treasurer out of section 4. And then,
right. And then we created a section.
Created a, yeah.
Sorry.
But wait, a number, C, it still has both, Kara.
Oops. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll check it again when I hit accept changes at some point, but yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry. And then.
And so we just separated the wording and made the treasurer its own officer,
Right. And then
which would be part of the executive board.
We also had the treasurer will hold the office of chair on the budget committee. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Unless
Any other suggestions, ideas, thoughts? So we're going to still read.
So then why are we advertising for a budget chairperson if we're going to be having a treasurer that's automatically the budget chairperson? Like, you should take the budget chairperson out.
We will. We'll fix that.
We will on the application form. Yep. If this gets approved.
Oh, okay.
Again, just the co-chair, chairperson
That was just.
wording.
And then here's where I
And
had
then back to where we were. Yep.
We're back to here. Let's be honest. For many of you, this is the first time you've read the bylaws, isn't it? I'm doing that.
In this much detail, yeah. I skimmed it. I really did skim it. Like, and I've read bylaws before, but I didn't go through it point by point like this. So.
Yeah, neither had I until I had to. So no, this is just a section about voting, and then we, based on earlier discussion, I put in the note just now about officers may reapply after their term. Do we need to host any kind of limit, or do we appreciate anyone that volunteers? I know that at least I think I was able to find membership back to like 2014. And I believe like Bob Wash held a co-chair position for at least 4 years. And he may have even done an overlap probably at some point to help someone else transition in. So from my perspective, I appreciate volunteers who are able to continue volunteering, but I also understand that sometimes we need the opportunity to move people along when it's necessary. So thoughts from those who've been on more boards than I have.
I think it's always beneficial to change leadership after serving 2 terms for the chair or co-chair. I don't think is a problem. That's 4 years. But I think it's always beneficial to have a succession plan of leadership and changing and just allowing different views to be a leader of the group. I'm on 4 boards right now, and I've been on several for the past 10 years. And, I'm the president of Habitat right now. I'm in my 2nd year, and that's ending in July or the end of June. And our vice presidents only serve 1 year. We extended to 2, and we constantly change. But if you have members in your committee who are familiar with how things work, then I think putting a new chair in place shouldn't be a problem.
How long is that position on the Board of Ed? Is that have term limits?
We elect a new vice president, president every year.
Every year.
Somehow Brad was lucky and got 6 years in a row.
So there's no limit. Then that's what I'm asking. There's no term limits for the Board of Ed.
4 year, your 4 year term is your limit unless you're reelected. But Brad served 6. He served 7 out of his 10 years as the president and 6 in a row until this year.
Okay. So no limit of that. If it's typical, other boards I've been on, you actually you don't age out, but I'm on committees where you're there while your kid is there. So once your child leaves, you're no longer on the board. So the boards I'm on, you naturally are kicked out anyway. So if we want to put term limits, I'm fine with 2 terms, which would be a total of 4 years. Patty, you okay with that? Unless anybody else has a significant.
I don't know.
Different.
I just feel like we were begging for.
I agree. I do agree. It's hard to fill, but
after their term ends, and not make a maximum.
Say again, I'm sorry, Desiree.
Officers may reapply after their term ends, period.
If the problem is we're begging people, maybe we need to evaluate why we're having trouble getting people on the board instead of worrying about the term limits.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's. I mean, that's the tail wagging the dog, right? Let's just keep no term limits because we can't get people on the board. We're not addressing the core problem. Why can't we get people on the board? Let's focus on that.
Fair enough.
Okay, so if we, okay, you want to add that in there, Kara, then the 2 years with 2 terms, I'm sorry, with a total of 4 years?
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't want to, but yeah.
Do we want to take a vote on that? Because I don't think it's a good idea either.
So that's a good point you're bringing up, because once this is all decided tonight, the vote will be the next meeting. So this is kind of like a speak now or forever hold your peace type of red line.
This also applies to secretary and treasurer, and I think Dee Dee had that for about 8 years.
10.
10 years. Left on her 10th year. Yep.
Isn't part of the control here that officers also have to be nominated?
Yes, but you can self-nominate, and anyone can run against them. Yeah, here it is. Sorry. Which we're already not meeting this, by the way.
What were you thinking, Tom?
I mean, well, I wasn't aware. I didn't recall when we were looking at elections earlier that there was a provision that allowed for self-nomination. I mean, officers, I don't know that we need to get a protracted discussion about term limits and the like if somebody else actually has to nominate an officer to continue. And that nominee then has to be approved by a majority vote of the entire committee. If that's the will of the entire committee and the will of someone to make a nomination of an officer to continue for another term, I think that's control enough, personally. Particularly when you are talking about a community of a finite group. This is only my first year in the committee, so I don't know who's been here for how long and what and who's contributed what. I just know what I've seen over the past several months that I've been in. And I think we want people that want to be here. We want people who want to be involved at the level that they want to be involved excuse me. And if it's subject to a majority vote of the members of the committee, I think there is a control there. So I think we're debating around in circles about something that isn't necessarily essential.
I know that participated in the ccac, or the Maryland State Department of Education focus on ccac. I know that we've patterned some of our wording off of CSAC's bylaws. What are the term limits in the nomination bylaws for csac for the state of Maryland, and do we want to pattern after theirs?
That would take a little bit of digging to pull up the bylaws. I think Patty sent them last. I've looked at them before, but I didn't look specific. That's not what I was looking for when I was looking, so I'd have to find them. I think this is a tough one because I definitely hear very divided on the term limits.
I think if we become too restrictive, it's not going to be a good functioning board. Right now, there's some checks and balances. Sean just brought up another one. I think if you become too restrictive, it's not going to be a good, healthy working board.
Do we want to take a straw poll? And I mean, I'm hearing that there's more people who don't prefer them than do.
Thank you, Troy. So in ccac, for anyone that's not looking at the chat, ccac is 3 years and they can be recommended for reappointment. And can you tell if there is a term to that, or they could be reappointed 6 times for all anyone cares? Okay.
I'm still looking at it, but right now it doesn't define that. It just defines what the purpose of the officers are.
Yeah, I was looking through it too. I mean, I believe it's been working as it's written for the last, I don't know, when did we start this? In 2003? 2 or 3, I believe it was started. And I would recommend leaving it the same at this point with some of the other checks and balances we've added in here.
Have we in the past had someone who was in there? Again, maybe Teresa, Shauna, who's been on for a long time, who was there ever a feeling like of abuse of power, that the person was in for too long? Just curious if there's ever been a history of that would.
Not that I've seen for the 10 years I've been here. And I think if we limit it, that prevents someone like you were talking about Robert, how he stayed on and he helped somebody else in the process. And you're preventing that if you limit. I mean, he was very kind to do that, but he took on a co-chair role in order to be able to do that and help her with the executive board and really get set up and established in that role.
I'm pretty sure every time we've had a turnover, we were sad about it. Just putting that out there. So with that, just so we can finish this conversation up, I'm going to make a motion that we vote yes or no on term limits, and then put it to rest.
So make your recommendation. Which one do you want it to be?
So Jeremy made, well, I think,
vote yes or no.
For this one particular area, since it's caused so much conversation, I think Jeremy is, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're making a motion to vote on this one specific, whether we add this one piece of information into the bylaws or not, and that
yes,
whether we add in term limits to the bylaws or not.
Correct.
But then we need a second for that motion.
Second.
Sean seconded. So into the chat, if you could put your yes, you would like to have term limits, or no, you would not like to have term limits. Or you abstain.
Sorry, Sean. Okay, never mind. Got it. So 17 no's, 1 yes. And we had, shoot. Oh, hold on. Sorry, my fault. I've missed a couple people that were here that I didn't see join later. So one second, I'm like, that's not adding up to how many people I have here today. Got it. Okay, that's everyone's vote. So we will not add it at this time.
Okay, thanks for Jeremy pulling us back in there for a second.
All right, 7:46. Let's find, we do get up to the 8 o'clock time.
Right.
We need to make a motion to extend the meeting or hold another meeting. So
right. This is our last bit though, right? We've done everything else on the agenda. This is our last action item, right?
Let me look real quick. Just
because I think we.
Sorry, give me 1 second.
Actually, there was one new thing added to the agenda. A question as to whether we can publish a press release to promote ccac as a positive entity, and that we're providing equipment for schools. Actually, I think.
Okay, so we can, if at the 8 o'clock, if we want to
Yeah.
make a motion to extend to cover that.
Got it.
Let's see if we can get through.
Yep, let's see.
2 more pages. All right, under meetings,
So we went to elections, now we're meetings. Okay.
we added the comment in section 2 of making sure that we provide any public speakers with a reference guide should they need to seek out any more information after.
Okay.
Scroll up. Thank you.
Sorry. Yes.
No problem.
Okay, right there on section 4, can we change that to say may be rescheduled? Because we haven't always needed to reschedule.
Thank you.
Like if it's a guest speaker who can't come, then we wouldn't necessarily reschedule.
Okay. That was the only thing major there.
Can I ask you to go back for a minute? Back to under meetings, section 3.
Yes.
Says the agenda will be established 2 weeks prior to the meeting and made available to the public at least one week prior. FCPS central office has us make it available 2 weeks prior.
Is that an FCPS piece? If you're not talking, I'm so sorry. Could you mute, because there's a little bit of feedback. So are we required, Linda, to do that for FCPS reasons? It's not bylaw reasons. So that's, I guess, publicizing FCPS wise.
It's part of the Open Meetings Act that we're required to publicize the agenda and things that will be shared at the meeting 2 weeks in advance. That's so that it can be published in enough time for those members who would want to, or community members who would want to know what was being discussed. So it's not specific to FCPS.
It's a Maryland Open Meetings Act, right?
But then the bottom line is that should be changed to 2 weeks.
I think it doesn't matter what ours say if we fall under the Maryland. It's not, ours is not more than.
Yeah, I would leave it because they're still required to, well, hold on.
Either way.
Hierarchy wise, I mean, if we're thinking we could always make it longer, but what, should we make it shorter, or do we even really fall under that? I guess we do. If we're a committee of the board's a committee of the state, it has to be changed. Yeah. So let's just change this to 2.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think I misspoke, and let me clarify.
Okay.
We are required to submit the information 2 weeks prior to the meeting, but it is made public by the Opens Meeting Act 1 week prior to the meeting. It was already accurate. My apologies.
Thank you.
What about changing the words prior to simply say before? It just sounds better to me.
I'm good.
Potato.
Either one. Yeah, I think it's all the same meaning. Either one.
Okay. All right. Let's go. Oh, are we at the end?
Holy moly. Are we done?
Sorry.
What?
And that's just an example, so don't worry about that. We will reallocate that differently. Okay. Wow, 7:51. Okay, real quick. So what I'm going to do, just so everyone knows, I'm going to take all of the red lining out, and I will so clean it up, make sure it looks right, but not change any more words or anything, and I will resend it back out, and then we will vote on it for at the next meeting. Is that correct, Jen? Okay.
Correct.
All right.
The bylaw state they have to have, I think it's 20 or 20 days, 30 days. So you guys have that.
Yes.
When you provide that, could you provide both the redlined changes and
Clean.
the unredlined changes so that when people are looking at them for voting purposes, they see the comparison between the two?
Yes, absolutely. I'm resaving right now before I mess it up. So hold on one second.
Patty, if you want, while she's saving, if you want to move on to that last item. 7 minutes, 8 minutes.
Sure. Actually, this was a suggestion by Eric, where to find out if we would be able to publish a press release about the good things that ccac has done with what we're doing with getting all of these things to give to the schools. Is that something that, first of all, are we allowed to do, Linda?
Like sell ourselves, right?
Sell ourselves. I think we need to sell ourselves in general anyway now.
I mean, we have done this kind of stuff before. We even, at some point, we've had budget specific to taking out newspaper ads for the resource fair or whatever it is. So it's not written anywhere, but we have actually budgeted money in the past for publications of things that ccac has done.
Mm-hmm. I like what Kathy just wrote in the chat box, that we should toot our own horn.
Of course we should.
I would suggest that the communications team come up with recommendations for how to toot your own horn and where you'd like to have that tooted, for lack of a better word, because you guys want to toot your horn. Where do you want to toot it? Do you want to toot it on your Facebook page? Do you want to toot it where else? And then, certainly you're welcome to determine if any of that marketing you want to happen through the Office of Frederick County Public Schools and the Office of Special Education. So just, create a proposal and talk about how you're going to toot it and what you're going to toot. And then Troy and I can take a look at it and determine what components of it would be requests for the school system to support. It was really fun to say toot that many times in a row. I really enjoyed that. That was fun.
I was going to object to the recommendation because it sounds like work. But I'm just kidding. We will cover that in the meeting that gets scheduled.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Sounds like a good idea. Mm-hmm. So that was our last agenda item. Before we close up tonight, I did want to make an announcement after we talk about all these bylaws and change of positions. I'm going to step down as the co-chair of ccac, and which means that position is open. So if anybody would like to step into that position, that's something that we would have to discuss and maybe have in place, the nominations in place by May. So it's giving a month to kind of figure out if anybody else would like to step in. Other than that, any other items for the good of the order?
So where does a person go to say, pick me? Or where, I mean, I'm not saying pick me. I'm just saying for the people on the committee who've been on it for a while and feel comfortable, where do they say pick me?
You can self-nominate yourself. You could have somebody nominate you.
It's often,
and then
it's often done like in one of these meetings. If anyone wants to send me an email nominating others, and I can let them know. If anyone wants to self-nominate and send it to me, I'm glad to keep that confidential. I can just bring whatever's out there. And on that same note, if anyone is ending the end of their term and is not planning on reapplying, if you could please let Shauna and I know as well, so that we can plan for that too.
Kara, that's me. I'm ending my term, and I will, after 10 years, I'm going to step down so someone else with new ideas can step on.
Oh, Terry.
You need lots of new ideas. There are so many new ideas on the committee. I feel like it's someone else's turn.
I know. I feel like it's so funny. I was looking through everyone's terms earlier, and it's the difference between a lot of you have been here for so long. I've been kind of here in the middle, and then we have a lot of really new people that have come in this last year, which is exciting. But again, you can tell me, you can let me know. If you could also let Shauna know. And then Jen, just to be clear, you are stepping down from chair, but you are still planning on returning?
That's correct. My term is not up. I just reapplied for my term.
Thank you.
But I guess I'm stepping down as co-chair, but I would still be a part of the ccac committee. Correct.
Perfect. All right.
And anybody, you know, Patty is lovely to work with, everybody.
Would it be possible to publish a list of folks whose terms end this year? I honestly have no idea how long I've been serving, and then when my term ends.
I can tell you exactly how long you've been serving, but
Well, I'd like to keep that confidential.
I'm just kidding.
Well, he was
I'm just
here when I
kidding.
came, so it's more than 10.
But I mean, I can tell you that technical terms, I mean, I can cover this right now if you guys don't mind.
Sarah, with 2 minutes left,
Yeah,
do we
okay,
want to
let's
do
do it.
that now, or do we want to share that a different way?
Yeah, we can send an email. Well, Sean and I will talk, and we'll send an email out to everybody. And if we do want to wrap it up, someone has to make that motion.
We need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion.
And a second. Terry seconded. All those in favor, please type your response into the chat.
Sorry, give me a second. I scrolled back up too far, so I have to check my timestamp. Okay, here we go. Okay, we are good. We can adjourn.
All right, motion adjourned. Meeting adjourned at 7:59. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, guys.